What's going on, everyone? It's your girl, LG Red, Lauren Gardner, coming to you here for the MLB Network Podcast alongside Xavier, Scruggs, X. This is a fun time of the season as we are winding down and the playoff storylines continue to get better and better, especially with the expanded postseason format.
Yeah, this is the best time. And I just think, like, as a former player, knowing that you played 140 games, 145 games, and now it's like down to the crunch. Doesn't matter how your body feels right now. Doesn't matter if you're mentally not there. You got to find a way to show up every single day for your team. And for those teams that are not in the postseason race, you're playing for next year, right? You're playing for an opportunity. So there's a lot lying on the line right now for every single team.
There really is. I love what you said. It's almost like a tryout for a lot of players on these teams, especially with September call-ups. There's so much going on. Also a chance to play spoiler. And if it's a division rival, who doesn't want to play spoiler? Do you want to get into some postseason storylines?
Let's do it.
Okay, we're going to play a little fill in the blank, which is one of my favorite things to do. So I need you to finish this sentence. If we had the whiteboard, it would be even more fun. The road to the World Series in the American League runs through blank. And I think I know the answer. I think we might have the mascot here on this desk, but that's my answer.
I know. That's the thing is, part of me wants to say the Yankees just because they've played so well down the stretch, and they're a team that looks dominant with two MVP candidates, Judge, Soto. The team looks different.
Yeah.
But now that the Astros seem to be back to full strength and seem to be themselves, Kyle Tucker back in the fold now, and Yordan Alvarez doing Yordan Alvarez things, they've got a healthy rotation. To me,
that probably won't include Justin Verlander, which is wild.
Yeah, that's crazy too. But I look at 7 straight ALCS appearances. It's hard to say that there's another team that you have to get past, right? That is the team right now, and they are a dynasty of sorts.
I love that you brought up the Yankees and the exciting stretch they've had. They've had the walk-ups. They've had all these different things. It seems like they're starting to figure out their pitching situation, whether it's rotation or, the bullpen, Aaron Boone. It's almost like closer by committee at certain points in time. This came up before we started recording the podcast, so I need to ask you about this. We talked about this on MLB Network, but the Garrett Cole situation, like what you saw from him facing Rafael Devers and intentionally walking him coming out prior to this saying that he is most fearful of Devers. What does that tell you, though, about his level of compete, especially when he's a leader in that rotation going into the postseason?
Yeah, it tells me that it's a level of competitiveness that you don't normally expect, right? Like, you felt like that was a weak move to me, at least as a former player and somebody that, if I'm watching my teammate in Garrett Cole, if he's my teammate, I'm like,
he's a leader.
Let's go after this guy. Like, Devers is someone that comes in struggling into the series. I'm like, this is the time to go after him and prove that you're better than him. So it just, like, to me, the idea that somebody's just swimming in somebody's dome like that, someone that dominates Major League Baseball, someone who won the Cy Young last year, it didn't make much sense to me. And if I'm looking at who I want going down the stretch, going into the postseason, is that the ace that I want? I think you have to think about that question.
Yeah, that kind of makes me question the Yankees, especially when the going gets tough, which it certainly will, especially as October tends to wear on. And then again, you face the dragon that is the Houston Astros that they continue to try and slay time and time again. I love what you said. What about a sleeper pick? In my mind, and I know things have changed over the course of the last couple of weeks, but I have my eye on the Kansas City Royals. It's been the NL side, right, that has produced like the Cinderella team that's gone all the way to the Fall Classic. Yeah. The AL, it's been pretty predictable. The Rangers, I know, snuck in, but we knew they were a pretty complete team. For me, I think the Royals might be a really fun sleeper pick.
I don't even think you can call them a sleeper pick at this point now. No, just because their rotation has been great. Obviously, you have Bobby Witt Jr., too, amazing player. But I still look at the Twins, who maybe hadn't played the best baseball as of late, now having Carlos Correa in this lineup with Byron Buxton alongside Royce Lewis. Like, those three,
if healthy,
those three never played together. And we're just now getting that opportunity to see all three of those superstars do it together. I think that can be something that they can lean on going towards this final stretch and hopefully going into the postseason for them. And also, Pablo Lopez has been really good. He's been a guy that they're trying to have, okay, who's going to be that ace that's going to go against somebody else's Corbin Burns or go against somebody else's Garrett Cole? Like, that has to be Pablo Lopez.
Listen, I feel like you're forgetting the most important factor when we're talking about the Twins, and that is the 4-month-old summer sausage. I think it might be back out of circulation, but I would not be shocked to see that thing make an appearance in the postseason if they make it in. That thing's ridiculous. Isn't that why we love baseball, though? It's like these weird intricacies that make their way in, and then if it works, it's like we live and die by those superstitions. This one might be the most unique.
I mean, that's baseball in general, right? Like
true.
you find a way to figure out, okay, what are we going to use that little edge? And all these teams now have the home run stuff that they're doing, all the celebrations that they're doing. Like, honestly, and I just got done playing like 4 years ago. We didn't have that stuff.
Was that like frowned upon at that point?
It was more so like nobody even thought about it. Nobody thought about doing that type of stuff. Nobody, was doing double celebrations or double cellies, hitting a triple and doing the whole Ellie De La Cruz, like going crazy. Like, we just didn't have that. So I think that's what's been cool about seeing our game evolve is now you have – like guys that can kind of take pressure off of themselves and just go out there and play a kid's game. That's what's cool.
If you could run it back and play in this era, what home run celebration would you have? And then if you could pick one for one of the teams you played for, what would it be?
A home run celebration. Well,
I played with the Cardinals, with Marlins. You played with KBO.
For me, like, I was actually thinking about this the other day. Like,
it's so fun.
I would hit a home run and I would just throw up the X like this.
Oh,
like,
that's actually so solid. With the X chain, wait, show off the X chain.
I don't have the chain on right now,
what?
But I would.
I didn't think you were like ever around, like in existence without that thing. I thought that was like part of your being.
No, but I would hit the home run. I'd throw it up to the stands just like that because then everybody would kind of brand with it, right? Like, they knew if I'm hitting a home run, everybody in the stands is throwing up the X.
Do you need
baby.
the DMX walk-up song? Just so you're like full circle, like you have to be on brand.
That's a good idea right there, too.
I mean, I don't know why that wasn't your walk-up song.
What would be your celebration?
Okay, my celebration would be something, I feel like it would have to be like dance related. So Denver Broncos cheerleader. It would have to be like something like my nickname in 8th grade when it became popular was like Spice Girls was Ginger Spice. So it would have to be like Spice Girls related.
Okay.
So I think I'd tell you what I want. What I really want would be like my walk-up song for sure.
I didn't know that about you.
Oh, dude, so many nicknames. So many nicknames. Not all of them good. Okay, moving on. Finish this sentence. The road to the World Series in the National League runs through blank. A lot to choose from.
This
here.
one's tougher to me.
It is. I agree.
Because obviously you have some teams that all have weaknesses. Including
the Dodgers. People are not. They're not looking at the injuries. To their rotation, particularly in that starting rotation.
Well, I'm just thinking like we talked about the Astros, and nobody's been as dominant as them in the National League, right?
Yeah.
So I would have to believe that it has to be the Phillies at this point, just because we've seen the Phillies get there, right, to the World Series most recently.
All short last year in the LCS, which was wild in 7.
So, and then look how dominant they've been all season long. They've probably been the most consistent team in the National League, probably on both sides, actually, now that I think about it. So I think it runs through them. And, I mean, they have the talent. They have the superstars, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, all those guys that get it done on a nightly basis, and they got the staff. Yeah. Nobody wants to go against a Zach Wheeler and Austin Nola.
No, Aaron Nola.
Christopher
absolutely.
Sanchez has been great.
Christopher Sanchez has been tremendous. Also, if Ranger Suarez is healthy, that's a 1-2-3 punch. And then you're right, Sanchez is also an amazing option. But at this point, is Sanchez in that starting rotation for the Philadelphia Phillies in the postseason?
He probably is. Right? Yeah, he's been probably the second, third most dominant pitcher in their rotation.
Which is crazy to say, right? When you think about that, like a lot of teams out there would be thrilled to have them as their ace.
And it's all about, like, I just think about going down this stretch as a player. It's all about if you have 2 or 3 dudes that can match up with anybody. And that's what they have, is they have the starting pitching that matches up with anybody. And not to mention that the bank is crazy.
Bank is nuts. The home field advantage is so real. And talking to Rob Thompson just a couple weeks ago about that when we did a showcase game there, this question starts to come up time and time again, especially with the new playoff format, is that, if you're in those top 2 seeds, you receive the bye. And the teams that get the week off, rust has been very much so a factor. But Rob Thompson has gone on record saying, I'll take the rest any day.
Right.
I'll take the rest. Like, we can deal with the rust and we'll figure it out. But, like, seeding is so important right now. So, even down the stretch, it's so important because, well, they're Brewers, Dodgers, all these things going down.
No, you need
it's such a huge determining factor. The Phillies, in my opinion, if they don't make it all the way to the Fall Classic, at least this feels like it will be a disappointment, not just for Phillies fans, but for the front office, the team in the dugout.
Well, they spent I think the second most in the offseason, right?
So, and they entered the chat right in 2022 as a Cinderella fun wildcard team, but they're not the fun scrappy Phillies anymore. This team is built to win it all, and now is the time.
There's so much expectation on teams that spend a lot of money, and rightly so, because you have superstar players that have to perform. Not just during 162. You got to go out there and ball when it's time. And that's
a great point.
That's how you get remembered. That's how players. Bryce Harper will be remembered, not necessarily 2-time MVP, but did he win a World? Did he take his team to win a World Series?
What was his role?
Exactly.
In that postseason
so
run?
That's a lot of what it is.
Okay, speaking of spending money, I don't even want to call this team a dark horse because they've been in the conversation for the past 4 years at least. The San Diego Padres.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on what A.J. Preller's team is going to do in October?
Man, first of all, it hits home with me because
I know
being from San Diego, it's hard not to, want to see them play well. And not only that, Mike Schilt, the manager now, was my former manager.
You played for him, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So seeing, and I talked about this before the season even started, knowing the type of person he is I knew that he was going to get the best out of those guys. And he's done that night after night after night. And I just knew that the type of person he was going to draw a Manny Machado to be a better leader, was going to draw a Profar who signed for $1 million to be the best version of himself. And then they brought over other pieces. You bring over Dylan Cease, you bring over Luis Arias, a lot of these guys that have really implemented what winning looks like.
Healthy Fernando Tatis Jr.
Yeah. So you can talk about, losing Juan Soto. You can talk about losing Blake Snell all you want. Sometimes it's guys that buy in and guys that find a way to get it done. And for me, I still go back to 1998 because, man, there's a heartbreaker
You're running
seeing
it back.
seeing the Yankees sweep the Padres when I'm 12 years old.
Oh,
and I'm
poor little X.
I know I'm watching it on my small little screen in my room, and I'm seeing
in your bedroom by yourself.
In my bedroom.
Oh.
Yeah, but that was the first time I was like I love this game. I want to play baseball because seeing my idol in Tony Gwynn be in a World Series, he hit a home run in Yankee Stadium. So I'm looking back and I'm like, man, if I could do that one day, that would be the most special thing ever. And then once they got swept, yes, I was upset, but then I saw Yankees players all jumping on each other, the excitement, people mobbing each other on the field, and I'm like, that's what I want to do one day. I want to win a World Series, win a championship, win enough to where everybody's just in love with each other at that time. That lives in my moment. And I want the Padres to get back there and be able to get it done.
Oh, that's so special. I love hearing the origin stories of how people fell in love with baseball. You see, I'm wearing the Phillies shirt. I'm from Colorado. I love the Rockies. It's so fun because we're allowed to be fans at MLB Network. And I think that's the best part about this whole thing, because that's why we're all here, because at one point in time, we all fell in love with the game for a certain reason. And it was your team that did it for you. I want to stay in the NL West real quick, and then we can move on to more postseason talk. But the Arizona Diamondbacks, I think, once again, which is hard to believe because they made it all the way to the World Series last year.
Yeah.
It seems like the highest scoring team in baseball should not be overlooked.
Definitely not. And I think, another team like the Padres that's been great in the second half, and you just said something that kind of resonated with me, is we're allowed to be fans.
Yeah.
Ketel Marte is one of the reasons why I'm a fan of the Diamondbacks, because I played with Ketel Marte in the Dominican back when he was 17 years old.
Ooh.
And I think I was 24 at the time, but he was one of the best players at that time on the team. And we had Nelson Cruz on the team. We had Marcell Ozuna on the team. We had Gene Segura on the team. We had a squad.
That's like an MLB. That could arguably be an MLB All-Star team. That's ridiculous.
But what it told me was yo, I got to keep my eyes on this kid because he's a switch hitter with power at the age of 17, making it look easy in the Dominican where I'm struggling and I'm like, I can't even touch the bat to the ball.
You're Nelly
So
Cruz
just
on
like
the team?
one of those guys, and that's one of the reasons why I love the Diamondbacks, because of that gritty mentality. He's going to get MVP votes.
Yeah.
And another guy, too, Merrill Kelly, who I played against in Korea, is another reason. Like, you talk about being a fan. We get the opportunity to talk to a lot of these guys. I knew Merrill Kelly when he was over in Korea trying to figure out how he was going to get back to the States and trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to do to best my arsenal to where I can have the scouts start looking at me, to where I can maybe have that opportunity. He was out there for like 4 or 5 years. And most guys, we don't talk about that a lot of times, is how long guys are out there trying to perfect their game just to get an opportunity to come back. Now he's come back and been one of the best starting pitchers in baseball.
What did you see from him over there?
Just the mix of stuff. He has like 7 different pitches that you don't know what's coming out of his hand. And we talk a lot about tunneling, which is this idea that the ball looks exactly the same no matter what the pitch is. That he's got one of the best of that. It looks like everything looks the same until the very last second, boom, drop. Or boom, it looks like it's going to rise.
Can you even have a plan at the plate as a hitter when you're facing a guy like that? Or you just like
to.
Close your eyes and swing? Okay, you're supposed to, but can you?
It's tough. And it is funny because we're in a day and age where guys are throwing high velocity, and he's not one of those guys. So it tells you a lot about the success he's able to have and how good he is with pinpoint accuracy and all that stuff.
Tunneling, I love that. And at some point in time, I would love to just get into your experience playing in the Dominican and Korea, and like what it does to help like sharpen someone's game, especially being in a different atmosphere, different league, different culture, all the fun stuff. My family actually went to a game, LG Twins game in South Korea in Seoul. They had the best time. Of course,
got to be an LG game.
I know, obviously, you got to keep it in the family. Okay, moving on. I need you to finish another sentence.
Okay.
The road. Oh, actually, we already did this one. Okay, so we will move on. What team could be really dangerous in the postseason if they're able to sneak in?
If they're able to sneak in.
We're talking bubble teams.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I mean, Mets, Braves, heated race, probably all the way down to the last day of the season.
Still think,
fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think one of those teams specifically, because I think those are going to be the closest ones towards making the National League wild card that, teams may look at as have the biggest weakness in the playoffs. So to me, I look at the Braves, and if I have to face Chris Sale, if I have to face Max Fried, if I have to face Ronaldo Lopez, I think that's still going to give them a chance. Yeah. Obviously, the offense hasn't been great, but I mean, Chris Sale has been like nobody's going to want to face him game one. He will win the Cy Young for the National League. Yeah. But I'm just thinking
automatic win almost.
Yeah. But they have to score runs, and that's the one thing about the Braves is they haven't done that. And
the Mets are so fun. I mean, our guy Mark Sales, who is like hands down one of the most fun researchers we work with here at MLB Network. He's a big Mets fan, and he has this metric that it's tough to quantify, but it's called vibes above replacement, just vibes. Like war. But like the vibes for the Mets this season, and it's kind of annoying, but like the Grimace thing and the OMG with Jose Iglesias, Candelita, like it's just like this team, they have that it factor this year, and it could very well be yet, like I keep saying this, but another Cinderella story.
Do you think they have enough?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think it would be all just like adrenaline and vibes. I don't know what else. Like, how do you, like, if you look at it on paper, the numbers may not add up, but sometimes it doesn't have to.
No, you're right. The starting pitching has been really good. And, we talk so much about Shohei Otani, but Francisco Lindor, another guy that's carried his team ever since he moved to the leadoff spot. And I still remember talking to Carlos Mendoza. We had like an Apple TV game there, and he was talking about just wanting to take the pressure off of Francisco Lindor to make him feel like he doesn't have to be a run producer. So him moving him to the top of the order. And I talked to Francisco about this too, is like he felt like all he had to do was just focus on one thing, and that's just get on base. And that just simplified his game. And as a player, when you're able to like stop all the outside factors and just bring it into just doing one thing, that makes it so much easier for you.
I love that you just said that, because this day and age, the game is in my opinion, at its peak, right? It's the best it's ever been, but there's so much information with the advanced analytics, and that's all being thrown at, at these players. And it's like, it's taking what you can use and sometimes just simplifying is the best way to get it done. So Mets, Braves, if they can sneak in, do you think they could do some damage?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The Mets have had a great rotation.
Right
Braves have been the same.
All you need.
The offense will be one of the biggest factors for them.
Okay. We are going back to LA to talk about I don't even know if he's a once-in-a-lifetime generation. Like, he might be the best player of all time in the history of the sport of baseball. I'm talking about a guy who may be like orbit here, is not even human. He might be an alien. Shohei Otani, we're not sure, because what he continues to do year in and year out, game in and game out, is so impressive en route to a 50-50 season. In your mind, though, what is more impressive? Ronald Acuna going 40-70 last year, or Otani? I don't want to say it's a foregone conclusion, but we're just going to call it 50-50 season for Otani.
I think Otani, just because, like, I look at outside factors, the idea that now not only has he come from Japan over here to acclimate himself, but now he's changed teams. And he's gone from being comfortable with the Los Angeles Angels to now joining a new team. Not to mention being hurt, trying to rehab his arm, and like having that surgery and then trying to figure out how he's going to come back as a pitcher. Like, all of those things while honing in on being the best version of himself as a hitter this year, those things are that's what escalates everything past what Ronald Acuna Jr. did to me. And the aggressiveness of doing it for a team that finds themselves as in a great position to be maybe the best team in the National League. Like, all of those things to me is really special. And just, I look at how he's had opportunity being clutch too. It's not just doing it with like nobody on base or, when they're down 9-0. No, he's doing it in big moments.
You're right. They're meaningful, high leverage situations where, it's not just like a garbage time hit or a garbage time swipe back. Like, he is making an impact for his
and he's got
team,
something
and
to
it's
play
showing
for.
up in the win-loss column. He really does. He has a lot to play for.
It's different
We want to see
with the
Otani in the
Angels.
postseason. It's going to be so much fun. He's under a microscope with the LA Dodgers. It's not just, we were there opening weekend for Apple TV Plus.
Right.
And it was wild because it was the Cardinals, and the amount of media present, or in the Bronx when it was Yankees Dodgers, it was like the World Series. There is so much pressure on Shohei Otani, and he continues to ball out night in and night out. Oh, and we forgot, there was another thing on his plate, training his dog Decoy. Is this like not the most well-trained dog of all time? Of course his dog is
the
perfect.
first pitch
Why
one time,
is it
right?
surprising? Yes. Decoy stayed like a good boy on the mound, and then he ran the ball in for the first pitch.
Just a machine like Shohei. That's basically
And
it.
he's a beautiful dog. It's like, are you just perfect from top to bottom? Is there any imperfection in Shohei Otani? The answer might be no. Speaking of Shohei, though, what are your expectations for him in the postseason? You can't overlook the dog, okay?
No, you're right. You're right. I'm just thinking about your perfection comment. Just thinking about the year that he's had, even at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, this is very true.
No, I just think that the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think we've seen him show up in big moments, WBC, striking out his own teammate in Trout, making it look easy. And then the most emotion we've seen came from those big moments in the WBC.
That's a great point.
So, like, I can only imagine what comes out this year in the postseason for him.
In his first MLB postseason. But let's also not forget that in 2016, he won a championship in Japan.
Right, yeah.
So he knows what it takes. He's been there. Obviously, we saw it firsthand, WBC. So I can't even imagine in Dodger Blue
And
if
he's
it
gonna,
gets to
he's
that
gonna
point.
want to make a statement.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to want to, and I think that's part of, the whole 50-50 thing too, is like, hey, let's make a statement. No, I can't go on the mound and show you what I got. Let's take it up a notch with the offensive side.
Will we see him on the mound in the playoffs?
I hope so. I mean,
hope so.
You don't pay someone $700 million and get to game. No, I'm thinking about a game 7. I'm thinking about a game 7 in the World Series. And Shohei Otani says, "Hey, I'm good to go." You're gonna tell him, "Nah, we're
Doc's like, we're good.
We'll
no,
take
thank
somebody
you.
else. Who do you have that you would rather have?"
Would you bring him into close?
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous. We saw Max Scherzer do that in 2021 in the DS against the Giants, Game 5.
Yeah, and I think
look in his eyes.
And Shohei's
Terrifying.
the same way. I mean, that's why you pay someone that type of money, is because you will literally use them and abuse them any way possible to get what you want.
I think he wants the ball in that moment. I truly do.
All the best competitors do.
Yeah.
Like,
I can't imagine him like taking it at bat, maybe hitting like, I don't know, just a go ahead, we'll call it a double, something like that. And then going out to the bullpen, warming up, and then coming in to close the game.
Yeah.
That'd be insane.
I see it happening.
I do too. Like, I'm not saying like we're prophets.
But
I'm thinking not saying this could happen.
So like a lot of people have been talking about, keeping him away from any injury risk, right? Because he's rehabbed this year. But if you think about the timetable and his body is ready to pitch, what is 20, 30 pitches?
And if not now, when, X? It's so hard to get to that point.
You don't know if you'll have it again.
Exactly. You don't know if your team will make it back there. It doesn't matter how much you spend. We've seen payrolls, teams with the highest payrolls in all of baseball, and they get left out of the playoffs. Yeah. All right. We're going to keep talking Otani because, why not?
We can have an Otani podcast.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure there are plenty out there. Other than Otani, though, we are moving on. Whose postseason debut are you hyped to see? We're talking Bobby Witt Jr., Jackson Merrill, Jackson Chourio, Colton Cowser, Anthony Volpe, or Mark Vientos. A lot of great names in that mix.
Yeah, it's easy to say Bobby Witt Jr., right, because of him showing that he's an MVP candidate. But I think Jackson Merrill and what he's done in San Diego and how clutch he's been, I think he's probably built for a moment like this, to come up big in these types of moments. And it impresses me because I go back to the first game was played in Korea this year, Padres and Dodgers.
You were out there, right?
I was out there. I saw Jackson right after he got done with his round of batting practice and before the first game started. He came up to me like, yo, I'm so excited to be here. Like, because if you remember, they had a couple of extra players that they could have on the roster. Yeah. So it was not set that he was going to stay on this roster all season long. Plus, he moved positions from shortstop to center field. So he came up to me, the biggest smile in the world, which he should have in his debut.
I love to hear that.
I'm so happy to be here. This is exciting. Like, I can't wait to get going. And little did he know, or I know, that he was going to go on.
Tear it
up as a rookie. So I just think about, the strides that you make as a young player. And that's one of the players that I would be most excited to see making his debut.
I know. You saw him when he was just a little guy. Now he's about to be crowned.
As long as he doesn't big league me.
I don't think you will. When that happens, though, you're always like, I thought I knew you win. Like, what happened? Like, oh, okay. Like, you glowed up, and you're too good for me now. That's cool. I was just about to say, he did glow up, and he will more than likely be crowned Rookie of the Year, but the debate still continues.
Yeah.
Paul Skeens, very much so in the mix. He didn't control the fact that he didn't make his debut until May, and has been pitching at a historic pace his rookie season. In your mind, who will win Rookie of the Year? Paul Skeens still has a couple of starts left. Say like he throws a no-no. Will that change the outcome of this vote?
I'm at the belief that Jackson will win it, but I'm also at the belief that I think Paul Skeens actually deserves it. And because of the idea that we don't see young players come in and dominate the game like this.
Yeah.
Jackson has been a great player. He has not dominated the game.
Especially, it was fun to watch him in Korea, and I'm sure you had that great conversation. He was excited, but it took him a while to heat up. His numbers in April and May weren't particularly great.
Yeah.
On the other hand, like Paul Skeens, almost every start has been so solid, including, he almost tossed a no-hitter before he was named the starter at the All-Star.
Yeah, he's been one of the best starters in baseball.
Yeah.
And it's hard to deny. Like, when you look at Rookie of the Year, it's hard to deny someone who's been one of the best pitchers all around in the game. So I'm starting to believe this idea that Paul Skeens probably deserves it.
Wow.
What about you?
This.
What
I
do
like
you
this. This is tough because you're comparing, a starting pitcher and an offensive player. So it's everyday guy versus going out every 5 days. Their impact on the team. Jackson Merrill's on a playoff team. Obviously, the Pirates are on the outside looking in. So there are so many variables at play. There is one advanced metric. I don't usually like to get into the numbers, but it's ERA plus and OPS plus. And what Paul Skeens is doing with his ERA plus numbers is head and shoulders above most pitchers in all of baseball. So if you want to use that metric, or you can just use the eye test and see that he's continued to improve throughout his rookie season, which you don't always see. You can always see oftentimes with these like rookies that are going out and just shoving, like hitters will make adjustments, but he's making adjustments. And it's a lot of fun to watch. So what do I think? This is so tough. I was just going to like take the, the diplomatic way out and just say they're both really good. And I just want both teams to have fun. I'm with you. I think Paul Skeens deserves the nod because what he is doing is historic.
It's hard to breathe as a rookie. Like it is literally.
That's a good way of putting it.
It's hard to breathe. I remember having a tough time breathing each day when I would go out there because you're trying to show everybody what you're capable of doing, but you're also trying to balance not trying to go outside of who you are as a player.
Yeah, no pressure. You've just been working your entire life. Your family's been, sacrificing for you to get to this moment, and it all boils down to this one at bat. No big deal.
Yeah, and it's tough because you're facing guys that you really have never faced before. The minor leagues is different because a lot of times you're facing some of those same pitchers as you go single A, double. They're going mostly the same way you're going a lot of the times.
So you become
But once you get to the big leagues, you're facing not only the best of the best, but guys that you've never seen before. I remember facing Aroldis Chapman, 104 miles an hour, and he threw me a changeup. And I'm like, you throwing 104.
How fast was the changeup?
The changeup was still 94, 95. But it's just an example of kind of like what you end up seeing. I remember.
You ever get a hit off him?
No, I didn't get a hit off him. You don't have to bring that up.
Cuban Missile. Well, I don't think many have, to be fair.
No, same thing. I remember seeing Chris Sale. Like, I'd never seen a lefty down here throwing 98 miles an hour where the ball looks like it's coming out of the first base dugout. Like, I'm trying to tell myself, okay, where do I pick this ball up at? Not only where do I pick it up at, how do I react to get my barrel to this baseball? So there's just it's like a different
real-time adjustment.
Different level. Yeah, DeGrom, same thing. I'm like, I've never seen a slider this nasty in my life.
You got a hit off Sale though. Did you get off DeGrom?
I didn't get a hit off Sale. I got hits out DeGrom, Garrett Cole.
Oh, that's
But guys, it's a different level.
I just wanted to let you flex a little bit on the podcast. Okay, we already talked about the Phillies and the D-backs, but I do want to ask this question. Who is more likely to return to the NLCS? 7-game series last year. Phillies jumped on the D-backs early. And then Arizona made kind of an improbable
I feel like that one's easy
comeback.
For me. I feel like it should be the Phillies.
Yeah.
D-backs were amazing last year. They got to the postseason. I still see holes, especially in their rotation. Their offense has been much better. Phillies, to me, have the best all-around talented roster.
Yeah. Seems like a complete team.
The most
Depth
complete
on the bench.
team.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately gets it done for them.
What's your dream postseason rotation and bullpen?
Dream rotation and bullpen.
Just build it.
Just build it.
Why
Dang.
not? We're making up the rules.
Does this have to be like now? Would this be like now?
Yeah, I think they have to be current players. We have to have some qualifiers.
Okay. So I'm definitely going to go with Wheeler, Zach Wheeler.
All right.
I'm going to go with Dylan Cease, too.
Wow. Why Cease?
Yeah, because when he's on, he's one of the most unhittable pitchers.
He threw a no-no this year.
Yeah, and he's like, even though he has his ups and downs, he's still one of those guys that I feel like is a competitor and deserves an opportunity in this postseason.
I honestly thought you'd go with Sale or someone like that.
Nasty.
Wow,
nasty.
Dylan Cease. Okay.
But Sale can still be in my rotation too.
Yeah,
you said rotation. That's
I said rotation. Well, we're talking about a playoff rotation. Isn't that like 3, 4?
So more three, like 3.
Yeah, like a postseason rotation.
No, that's 4. They give me a 7-game.
The question is your postseason rotation of bullpen.
So that's 4.
I'll give you 4.
Okay, so I got
3.
So I'll go
swing man.
I'll go Wheeler. I'll go Cease. I'll go Sale, and I'll go. Let me see one more, and then I'll. Dang, I might go Flaherty right now. Honestly, I might go Flaherty.
Well, I mean, he's probably going to be. Is he going to be on the top of the Dodgers postseason rotation?
Yeah, him and
Yamamoto.
Yamamoto.
Know what Buehler's doing? Yeah, like obviously. Glasnow's gone, right?
Yeah.
The locker plate is gone, and we have no idea.
That's the thing. So many guys are hurt. Like Senga's hurt for the Mets.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Oh man, the Senga,
Yeah, you mentioned Glass now.
It's like the most Mets thing ever. All right,
Yeah,
so
that's good.
okay, so
Bullpen?
Wheeler, Cease, Sale, Flaherty.
Bullpen, you have to give me Hader.
I was literally about to say Hader.
You got to give me Class A.
Yep.
Who else you got to give me?
That's ridiculous. Hader, Class A. Anyone from the Padres? Maybe a midseason acquisition.
Oh, like a Tanner Scott?
I don't know.
Or like a
yeah,
Jason Adam?
Maybe
yeah,
just
Jason
like
Adam,
a long,
Tanner
like
Scott.
a long relief guy, or kind of just like eat up some innings.
I guess nobody's eating up innings.
You know what you can do, though?
Nobody's eating up
You don't
innings.
have to go with the traditional bullpen guy. Like, you can use
Just
someone in the rotation.
starter.
Yeah, but why not? That's what they do in the postseason.
You're right. Okay,
I'm just
who
saying,
would you
think
have?
outside the
Who would you
box.
have since
I know
you
you're
over here
putting me in
giving me
there.
telling me?
I mean, why wouldn't you put Merrill Kelly in there?
Okay, but right now I don't know. He's not
not doing what you
himself.
think.
Like, yeah.
But do you think he'll turn it on? I'm just thinking about some of these teams that
Yeah,
have, like,
no, I mean, we've seen it before.
nasty
Zach
dudes.
Gallen is another guy.
Yeah, like, I mean, gosh.
Freddie
and
Peralta.
then you start thinking about, like, Houston has a pretty solid rotation, but then they have, like, some spare pieces there, right? Like, it's Eric Getty and Hunter Brown, guys you don't traditionally think of.
Yeah.
That could come out of the pen, and I think
Framber.
really nasty. Yeah, Framber. I think
Garrett
he's going to be in
Cole.
the rotation, right? But I guess now, yeah, it's like, it's wide open. I think I made this way too open.
I mean, it's tough.
But there's
to pick,
there's
it's tough
so
to
many
pick
great
4
names.
or 5.
There really are. It's kind of too bad that the M's aren't going to make it in. All right, your favorite thing about postseason baseball?
My favorite thing about postseason
There's
baseball.
so much to love. Oh my God, it's my favorite time of year.
Dang, that's a good question.
Right, the air is crisp. The stadiums are packed. There's just like this tension.
I think I was going to say the tension that there is on every single pitch. There's such a focus on, and I'm almost thinking of it from a player's perspective, actually being on the field is like 162, you're in the game, but like there's nowhere near being in the game on every single pitch. Like because you know you don't want to be the guy that makes the mistake. You don't want to be the one that messes it up. And more than anything, you want to be the guy that puts the team on his back, or you want to be the guy that has the big hit.
Yeah.
You want to be the guy that
Everyone
comes
wants
up
to be
clutch.
the hero. Everyone wants to,
And it can be any pitch.
be in that, like that, the memory that's replayed over.
Everybody wants to be interviewed by LG at the end of the game.
Obviously.
If you get interviewed by LG, you know something is special. You know
God.
you've done something
I just know
good.
it's going to be Nick Castellanos. We love you, Nick, but also, can we talk about these interviews?
Maybe more than 1 or 2 words.
Oh my God. The best. But I'm with you. Like, I love the intensity.
Yeah.
And it's just the
reacts,
energy and the
emotions.
reacts, and like it's just, and everyone's on board. And I say this time and time again, and it never gets old for me, but like this is what I love about sports in general, is that it transcends so many walks of life, and it brings us all together, and complete strangers are best friends in these moments. And it's like this beautiful collective energy, with 50,000 people live on site, in addition to all the people at home watching, and there's a rooting interest, whether you're on board with the team or not, if it's a compelling game, if they're compelling storylines, if we start building up the characters, within this grand unscripted play that has been unfolding for the last 6 months. To me, I think that is the most beautiful thing to experience, not just like, in sports, but almost as a human in a way. Like I've done a lot of playoffs, whether it's like, postseason the NFL, or it's like a college football, or basketball, but there's something really special about baseball. Of course, playoff hockey is so much fun. Okay, before we wrap this whole thing up, this is kind of in the same vein, and I want you to think about this, because you and we met actually in Atlanta during the World Series in 21, right?
Yeah.
And so you've obviously experienced a lot of postseason baseball, but what's your favorite postseason memory? Aside from meeting me and Steven Nelson, obviously.
Yeah, going back to 2021 when I met
so
LG.
Fun.
Man, that's a really good question. I would have to say like the David Freese Cardinals.
Oh, so fun.
Yeah, seeing him,
Hometown guy,
get to game
hero,
7.
Yeah.
Just because I was a young minor leaguer at that time, a couple of years away from making it to the big leagues, and
you were
wanting,
in the Cardinals organization,
yes,
right? Yeah.
and wanting so hard. I was at home, I believe I was at home, and I had just finished maybe AA, or maybe I'd finished single A, high A, and I saw David Freese walk it off to get to Game 7 against the Rangers, and I was like, wow, there's no cooler moment than to do something like that when your team was down and out, and you get the game tying hit, and then you hit the walk off. That was probably watching my favorite postseason moment.
That's so special.
Yeah.
Did you ever play with him?
I never played with David Freese.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
But did it feel tangible in that moment?
Yeah, I think that's what gave me the opportunity to say, yeah, that definitely. I think that was what was exciting about that moment. It was like, I'm not far away from it,
Exactly. It's like it's within reach.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, mine were two that I kind of actually brought up over the course of this podcast, but I will never forget covering wild card and division series between, two teams with two of the best records in the history of baseball that were, the Giants with 107 wins and then the Dodgers with 106 that year. It was wild. And then, of course, wild card, the Dodgers beat the Cardinals. And it was so much fun. I remember Juan Soto was there to surprise his former teammates and Trey Turner, Max Scherzer. And they all did. And we got to go out and interview them. And then we're interviewing Soto through the netting behind home plate. And it was so cool to see all that and all these players who have continued to go on, and just achieve greatness. And then you fast forward to the next series, and Max Scherzer feels like his arm might fall off, but he tells Dave Roberts, I am closing this game. And there was no option. You think Doc had an option? No. Scherzer came in and he closed the thing out, and the level of intensity is something unlike anything I've ever experienced. And then, of course, you run it forward. And I know this might be a cliche answer because I'm sure a handful of our colleagues will say this, but at the bank in Philadelphia, Game 5 of the NLCS in 2022, when Bryce Harper hits that home run, the building shook. And then the post-game interview where, he doesn't come out for BP, this, so we don't get a lot of access to Bryce Harper.
Right.
But that interview where we're standing there in the middle of the field and the celebrations are underway, the emotions that he just he was vulnerable in that moment, and he became emotional. He's thanking the fans, and all this is finally coming to fruition. He's like, I did it, I accomplished the goal, which obviously they didn't get all the way there. Houston ended up beating them in the World Series, but that was so special to be part of that moment, to help tell that story. And to this day, I'll talk to Phillies fans, and they really loved being able to see that moment, and it was cool to be part of it. So postseason baseball, it doesnn't get any better than this.
It gives me the chills just hearing you say that.
I'm pumped. I can't wait. All right.
It's coming quick.
I know it's coming quick, which means we need to go get ready. So we're going to wrap up this podcast, but hopefully we'll be back at some point. MLB Network Podcast, doing big things. Shiny studio, great mics. We finally got chairs that work.
Yeah.
What's more to like? All right. We're going to wrap it up. We'll see you next time. Bye, friends.